You've tuned into Books, Business, and Beyond, the show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Now here's your host, the best-selling author who loves sunsets and traveling around the world, Shelley Hitz, and her partner in success, Kristen Eckstein.
Hi, and welcome to this edition of Books, Business, and Beyond. And I'm Shelley Hitz, and we are so excited to introduce our guest today. We have Joanna Penn on the call with us today. Welcome, Joanna.
Thanks for having me, Shelley. It's great to be on your show.
Welcome, Joanna.
Thanks so much, Kristen.
The three of us were just saying, I think we could talk all day. We all just love the whole the area of publishing and marketing and helping authors. But Joanna has been a New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of thrillers, On the Edge, as well as a bestselling nonfiction for authors published under her name, Joanna Penn. So she has JF Penn and Joanna Penn, but she is just a powerhouse. You've been podcasting for years, Joanna, and helping authors, and it is just such a privilege to have you and to just pick your brain about so many things related to building a business as an author.
Yeah, it's great that we're also passionate about the same topic. And yeah, I love to talk about this stuff.
So you just recently released a book, and we wanted to talk a little bit about that and what, just drove you and inspired you to publish it. It's called Business for Authors, How to Be an Author Entrepreneur. How did this book kind of come to be?
Well, it's really funny because I think, like your podcast, there's clearly a zeitgeist. What's happened in this indie space is, a couple of years ago, the Kindle arrived and people started to take self-publishing more seriously. And, people were jumping into KDP and they were doing all the, self-publishing stuff. And then a few people started to break out, make loads of money. And then, everybody else kind of started going, do you know what? This is more than just a lightning strike. This is actually a viable business. And whereas in the past, being an author was kind of a lucky draw. And I still think that, having a success like Hugh Howey, for example, is still a lightning strike. For the rest of us, we can actually make this a living. So I wanted to do Business for Authors for two reasons. One, I was a business consultant in my previous life, working in large corporates. So I have a business background, and I wanted to introduce the business side of things to a lot of authors and creatives who don't really get it, just were upset when people used words like products and things like that. And then the second reason is that I wanted to examine my own business as an author. And I'm sure you guys understand this. When you write a non-fiction book, it actually helps you organize your own thoughts. So I wanted to both get it straight in my mind and also help other people.
That's awesome, Joanna. So what's one of the tips from your book as far as bridging an author with an entrepreneur?
Well, I think probably my first tip is going to be to people to think, to understand that this is not a overnight thing. And
thank you.
Yes, we all agree on that.
Yeah, I think so often, I look at someone like Bella Andre and Barbara Freethy, for example, both hugely successful authors whose success I don't believe is a lightning strike. They've both been working as, working authors for years. Like Barbara's over 20 years in the business. Dean Wesley Smith and Chris Rush are other people, that this is a long-term thing. And you don't go from just writing your first book to running a business as an author like the next day. There's a lot of mindset shift. There's a lot of organizational stuff, finding your team, developing your voice, finding your confidence as a writer, which I think I'm only just discovering after several years. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. If you're listening, it's okay. You don't have to be a full-time entrepreneur tomorrow. In fact, most authors I find don't even like the term entrepreneur. They don't recognize themselves as an entrepreneur. But so what I say to people is, well, entrepreneurs just create something of value from their brain. And that's basically what authors do. We create something of value when we write a new book. So just even if you can accept that first thing, and then everything else is just one step at a time, taking it, the mindset shift, and then the second book, and then the third book, and then your team. And, it is a journey, basically. And I know you ladies help a lot of people with that journey.
Yeah, and I love that that description that you gave, that entrepreneurs are basically, people who create something of value from their brain. And every author has something to offer, has something to offer in a way that they can even repackage or, sell in other ways, even besides books. And I've noticed over the years, Joanna, that you've started to do that as well. You've offered other products, other packages besides just your books. What kind of created that transition for you to create other things besides just publishing books?
Well, for me, it was actually the other way around. I had determined when I wanted to leave my job, like 7 years ago now, that I would be a speaker. A professional speaker, and I was going to the Professional Speaking Association in Australia, where I was living at the time, and I had started to write a book, but I had always thought that the book would be the back of the room product for my speaking career, and most speakers make far more money on the speaking fees than they do, on the book sales, and then they also have multimedia courses and that type of thing. But for me, going way back, I always wanted to be the British Tony Robbins, a sort of motivational speaker for creative people. So I had that business model in mind. And I think this is another point for people. You really have to consider your business model. So I still, as the Creative Pen, I speak internationally and selling books like How to Market a Book and Business for Authors often come off the back of my professional speaking. So that is one business model. And then what happened was then I started a blog, which is another business model, because I attracted, I don't do advertising, but, kind of affiliate commission and sponsorship and then sales through the blog. And only then did I discover fiction a couple of years into the journey. And what's interesting with my model now is I'm actually shifting towards the book model, which, fiction, it really is, ebook, print book, audiobook, multiple languages, multiple countries. It's quite hard to do a video course on my fiction book, for example. But so it's interesting how my business model is kind of switching, and I have all of those streams right now. And I know you like the multiple streams of income idea too. So I would always advise authors to think about those multiple streams and how you can turn things into those multiple products.
I love that. Personally, my whole business model revolves around that concept of multiple products and multiple streams of income, because, we can't rely on book sale royalties alone, especially authors just starting out. So how would you, or what would you say that you are using your books for, how you're using your books to market your speaking business? Because you mentioned you've got them at the back of the room, but are you also reverse engineering that and using your books as a catalyst for getting speaking gigs and selling your products?
I think because I can't, I have these two brands. So just, on the nonfiction side, I actually think for me, it's been more about the blog and Twitter. I've actually surprisingly had an enormous number of speaking events through Twitter. And I think having a book as a speaker is probably often more about a confidence thing and a social proof thing than anything else. There are plenty of people who would book me for speaking who've never read any of my books, but by the very fact of having those books, they that also gives you an offering for speaking. So another reason for me to write the Business for Authors is I was kind of over being booked for How to Market a Book. you know how that goes. It's just like, okay, I've talked about this enough. I'd quite like to talk about something else, which is the business. Why I'm really happy to talk about this is I think creative entrepreneurship is the next step, and is a bigger issue than how I just sell this one book, for example. So I do think that the books, the classic, the book is a business card for a professional speaker. But I would say that for most people listening, I think for most authors, speaking is not a big part of their business model. The book is probably first. And as an introvert, I do suffer from too much speaking. And I did actually write a book on public speaking for introverts because it's very tiring and very draining. So you have to, and I only learned that about myself when I tried to do more speaking and just found myself falling apart with my energy. So that's one of the reasons I'm shifting my business model into more books and more fiction, because that is a more nurturing kind of energy flow for me.
Yeah, and that's really important, I think, to be able to know ourselves, know what our strengths are, and be willing to adjust at times. Like, you're really adjusting your business model. I know Kristen's in the middle of adjusting her business model, and it's okay to adjust, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the problems with the indie space right now is that the model of high volume fiction seems, or even nonfiction, has become, this is the only business model that you're allowed. You know, you have to write a book a month, or you have to write, you know, you have to get all these books out every year because that's the only way. But actually, you know, there are different business models, and, you know, what suits different people is really important. So yeah, know thyself, I think, is, you know, one of the overall tips that we would say to people.
I see in your book, you have part 2, it's products and services, and you talk about how you can turn one manuscript into multiple streams of income by exploiting all the different rights, various business models. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. So often I think when people are writing often their first book or their second book, and they think because it is one file, you know, on their Scrivener or in their Microsoft Word, that exists as one thing. And I actually think traditional publishers take advantage of this, you know, and when people say, oh, that, you know, they've got a book deal, it's like it's in the singular. Whereas actually what you're licensing is the rights to your work. So how I kind of visualize it is, if you think immediately, there's 3 editions. So ebook edition, print edition, audiobook edition, although as we know, the ebook edition can be Kindle, Kobo, iBooks, Nook Press, all the rest of them. So even your ebook can have multiple editions. And then, so there you've got 3. So that's one book turned into 3 products as such: ebook, print book, audio. And of course, people should be aware of acx.com, which is Amazon's audio self-publishing platform, which is turning into quite an earner for a lot of us right now. It's absolutely fantastic. And then so you've got those 3, and then you can think about countries. So I'm selling in 58 countries right now, so that's 58 times 3. And then think about language. Now this is definitely cutting edge stuff, or bleeding edge as I call it. The translation stuff for indies is definitely an advanced kind of tactic, but you can then start turning those editions into different languages. So I've got German, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese on the way, and then you can sell all of those all around the world. So what you can do is, if you start to do the maths, one finished book can turn into almost innumerable different things. And that's without even talking about turning it into a professional speech or a multimedia course, or, you know, a Udemy course, or, you know, all these things that you can do with it. So I think if you actually consider what the potential is for one finished work, I think as business people, we can get very excited about the potential future income.
I personally never even thought of it that way. That is really cool to think that the reach of one book is like, you know, the 3 products times the number of countries it is in, times the formats, times the languages. I mean, just it blows my mind as to how far one message can reach. So for those authors,
I'm so sad.
those authors just sitting on the fence and not finishing writing, like, what the heck? Get off your butt and do it already.
Well,
Look
and
at the world you can reach.
What's interesting is I only when I was writing this book is I did my first asset list. And if you think about, if you create a spreadsheet called asset list, and you put your book title down the side, and the language, and then the ebook, print book, audio, country, you put all the different variations of how you can sell that book. What it does is you begin to build up your work. You can see where the gaps are as well. So for example, when I looked at my asset list, I was like, oh, look, I haven't done this book in German, in audio format. So I was like, well, I don't really know if I'll be able to get a German narrator, but I might as well put it up on ACX and see what happens. And I got a German narrator for a German audiobook. So, just by realizing what we're not exploiting, we can actually create more opportunities for ourselves. So I'm so glad to help you with that, and go and create that asset register, and you'll see how exciting it is.
Yeah, it is exciting. And for me, I published my first book in Spanish this last year and put it on to ACX. I got a Spanish narrator. It's an audiobook format now. And so, just seeing that, yes, there is the power in that, and being able to see that one book. And what I did was I started with my best-selling book. So if it's already selling well in English or on your, normal platforms, that's the one that you may want to start with. Do you agree with that, Joanna?
Yeah, definitely. And also give the narrators a choice. Like, for example, I had, you might be surprised. I mean, you could put them all up and somebody might pick one because they think it's right for their market. So I've got a German translator for how to market a book because the German self-publishing market is just starting to take off. So there might be, and then I've got my Portuguese for my religious thrillers is being exploited because Brazil is a Catholic country. So you just never know actually what people are going to be interested in. But you're right, start with the most popular one. But I think what we're discovering more and more is that the world is very big, and you may find a random market somewhere else other than America.
That's a good point.
I have a question because a lot of our authors may not even realize what ACX is, and we haven't covered it yet on this podcast. So can you just give a quick review of how it works? Like, we know it has to do with audiobooks and Amazon, and it's a publishing platform, but how would an author get started using it?
Yeah, so it's only available right now to the US and the UK authors, but they are going to hopefully be expanding it globally as they roll that out. So essentially it's acx.com, and you claim your book. So your book will exist on Amazon and you claim it. And then you essentially say how you want to do the rights. So I do 50-50 royalty split, so I don't pay up front. You can also pay up front for a narrator. I personally prefer to collaborate with people on a royalty split. And then people submit their auditions for your piece, and you upload, like a chapter or something, and they audition for that. And then you pick a narrator and you sign a contract, and then it gets produced, and the distribution platform is Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. So essentially for me, it's been no money down, and I've started to get pretty healthy income from it. So just amazing. It's a kind of a stunning addition.
It's for audiobooks, but you also mentioned translation. So is there a way to get translators for print books or ebooks there as well?
No, I mean, I have put up my translated works onto ACX
I see.
You can, if you are a German narrator, you can narrate this book in German, because the German audio market is actually bigger than the German ebook market. So it's a really good market to be in. No, translation I've done myself. I just started to, because of my platform, I kind of said, I'm interested in working with translators. If you'd like to work with me, please email and we'll sort something out. And I've done all of that privately myself. Again, 50-50 royalty splits with translators, no money down. There is a site called BabelCube, which is doing this kind of ACX thing for translation, but you do have to publish through them, so you don't control everything as we control freaks like to do.
I know. Well, we would love to just talk forever, but our time is winding down, and I noticed on your book, you actually give some bonuses in your book that include a workbook and a business plan template. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I've also, just on the business side, I also offer a coupon for the audiobook, which I actually did myself, and I sell direct from my website. So this is another thing. For my non-fiction audio, I decided to record that myself and sell it from my website using selz.com, selz.com, which is a shopping cart software. So that's kind of another business model. If you have a platform and you can narrate your own books, which I would only ever do for non-fiction, you can sell them in a different way. So that might be interesting to people as well. So I just try to put everything in this book that I do in my business.
That's awesome. So they get the book and the audiobook, and
a coupon for the audiobook.
A coupon for the audiobook. Okay. And you can download this book. Check out Joanna's book at booksbusinessandbeyond.com/Joanna, Joanna, and we'll have all the links to her and her site in our show notes. But Joanna, it has just been a pleasure having you on the show, and thank you so much for just everything, all the tips and everything that you shared.
Thank you, Joanna. It's been great.
Oh, thanks for having me, ladies. It's been fun.
Yes, and again, we just recommend that you check out Joanna's book, Business for Authors, and check it out, booksbusinessandbeyond.com/Joanna. Make sure to check out the next episode, and we look forward to meeting with you soon.
You've been listening to Books, Business, and Beyond, the show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Visit your host, international best-selling author Shelley Hitz, and her partner in success, Kristen, the Book Ninja Eckstein, at booksbusinessandbeyond.com, and grab your free gift today. Tune in next time for more ways to diversify your income beyond the book, and don't miss a single episode. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.